and welcome back to Redefining Chronic Illness. This episode, who's writing your narrative? You or your diagnosis? It's a great question. So did you know? Like to start with facts. Self-narrative in chronic illness involves reconstructing your personal identity to integrate your illness, moving from disruption, we all know this, to finding new meaning, which improves coping and self-management. Research shows that crafting a positive or restorative narrative, that's a lot of tivs, reduces psychological distress and fosters resilience. These are amazing things. So some key themes to include when you're rewriting or writing your narrative: managing the tension between your old self and your new self. You know that old self, the one who did everything and had no restrictions and didn't have to have all the reminders on their phone to take their meds or whatever it is. Another key theme, searching for meaning. What is going on? And then shifting from loss to empowerment. I love that one. More did you know? Some core aspects of your self-narrative. First of all, there's identity reconstruction. We had an identity that we may have been formulating for years, but chronic illness often causes narrative destruction, replacing a person's expected life story. Think about that for a minute. Rewriting your story provides the opportunity to rebuild your identity by integrating the disease, moving from a shadow of who I used to be to a new adapted sense of self. And that is just so powerful if you think about it. Another core aspect is meaning making. This includes interpreting that why question, why the illness occurred, helping us move from a state of existential uncertainty, what is the meaning of life, to a new normal. So, welcome back to Redefining Chronic Illness. I'm Dr. Chris Wilson, your host. Thank you for joining me today. If you're struggling with a chronic illness and are discouraged, stay here. If you're a caretaker who feels stressed out, stay here. This could apply to you too. The goal of this podcast is to talk about how chronic illness changes life circumstances to combat stereotypes associated with chronic illness. You're weak, you're not as valuable as you used to be, you're dependent, all of the things, and consider ways to thrive beyond that diagnosis. That is what this is all about. So I invite you to grab your favorite beverage or snack, find a comfy place. If you happen to be driving or walking, find a comfy pace, but keep listening if it doesn't distract you. Get comfortable, whatever that means to you. Take a breath, settle in, and let this be a moment where you don't have to push. You can just receive. So let me start with some benefits of a narrative approach. First of all, there's your enhanced agency. Sharing narratives helps move from feeling passive, I can't do anything, to active, improving self-management. So, enhanced agency, then there's peer support and reduced isolation. Isolation is a thing, especially if you're down and out with, your chronic illnesses. Sharing stories with others in similar conditions reduces feelings of loneliness and provides peer validation. In fact, you guys, yesterday, I was reading a story on Facebook, a lady with Crohn's. Gosh, she was so much younger than me too. And I mean, it could have been my story. Like, oh my gosh, yes, and that, yes. And so I really do see how the peer support and reduced isolation is definitely a benefit of the narrative approach. And then improve psychological health. Narratives with optimistic content or themes of acceptance are associated with better mental health and lower distress. And that's according to the National Institute of Health. And they know a lot about a lot. So here is a quote for you. I really like this one. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. And that's by C.S. Lewis. So that is a great quote. I also have a Bible verse. I have a couple today, but let's talk about this one. It says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up." Isaiah 43:19. So chronic illness can draw a dividing line that splits your life into two timelines: before the diagnosis and after. Maybe before you felt predictable, capable, independent. After, things feel uncertain, limited, or even unfamiliar. And without realizing it, many of us begin to build a story around that shift. I can't really live the life I wanted. Everything is different now. I know we've probably all said that. These thoughts don't come from weakness. They come from trying to make sense of something really, really hard. But here's the truth. The story you tell yourself about your illness will shape how you experience your life. That is such a strong statement. Remember the last video on self-talk. If you haven't seen it, just look for the thumbnail asking, "What did you just say to me?" If you haven't watched it, listen to it. So some research. Let's do some neuroscience research. Neuroscience shows us that the brain is constantly forming and strengthening pathways based on repeated thoughts. A little bit about that in the self-talk. This is called neuroplasticity. And let me just tell you, it is an amazing blessing from God because it means we're changing all the time. Like I remember learning when I was much younger than now, that our brain will never change. And even though I was young, I remember thinking, oh no, that's not good for me. But neuroplasticity actually reshapes the brain. Again, hallelujah. What we rehearse mentally becomes easier to believe and feel. It is creating a neural pathway in my brain. When we repeatedly tell a story of limitation, loss, or fear, the brain reinforces stress responses. The body can stay in a heightened inflammatory state. There is that word again. Inflammation. Oh my gosh. Remember, I am probably going to do a podcast on that. Our energy is directed toward protection rather than growth. We can't put our energy everywhere. So we go into a fear state rather than a safe growth state. But when we begin to rewrite the narrative, even gradually, the brain creates new pathways. I just said that. Again, that's neuroplasticity. And emotional regulation improves. And there's more. Resilience increases. This is intentional reframing. I love reframing. I used to be a mediator. Haven't done it in a while. Maybe some grandkids. I don't know. Anyways, let's get a vision. Imagine this, okay? You can even close your eyes. You still have your diagnosis, your body still has limitations, but your story sounds different. I'm learning my body, not fighting it or hating it. I adapt, and this is strength. My life still holds purpose, meaning, and joy, which all can be true. Thriving doesn't mean symptom-free. Thriving means engaged, empowered, and aligned, even with constraints. So if you still need to ask the question, if I haven't already made a point, what's in it for me? When you begin to rewrite your story, you reduce the mental exhaustion of constant resistance. You create space for hope that feels realistic and not forced. You shift from powerless to adaptive. You build a life that works with your body, not against it. That is so kind. I love this. Is part of our self-love, right? And most importantly, you reclaim ownership of your identity beyond the illness. So questions to ask yourself. What would be included in your new story? So I'm pausing because I'm thinking about that for myself. because I would definitely include something about lasting remission, how to get there and how to stay there. Number 2, what could help you achieve this new narrative? So not just ask, what is the new narrative? How are you going to get there? Let's talk about 3 practical steps. Step 1, identify and interrupt the old narrative. So always awareness. This is where we start everything. If we're not really paying attention to what we're doing, we can't change anything. So start noticing your internal dialogue throughout the day. Common patterns may include catastrophizing, oh, this will never get better, all or nothing thinking, I can't do anything anymore, identity statements, I'm just a sick person. Okay, so we're looking at these thoughts that pop up into our mind. Don't judge them, just observe them. Then we can gently interrupt it with something more accurate or supportive. This sounds like a kind of therapy I've heard of. Instead of, I can't do anything today, try, my body needs a different pace today and I can adjust. You're not forcing positivity, you're creating flexibility and thinking. Really like that. Okay, so we're noticing and then we're interrupting and saying something more accurate and supportive. Don't forget that word. Step 1, remember, is identify and interrupt the old narrative. Step 2, write a new version of your story. So this is powerful when you do it intentionally. Take time. Journal this if you can. I know no one wants to do this, right? We're probably already journaling our diet or journaling symptoms or journaling something. So we've got the journal anyway, so let's do something fun and positive. Who am I beyond my illness? What strengths has this experience developed in me? That is such a good one, because I can tell you that I have developed a whole new appreciation for people who suffer with chronic illness. Yeah. And then what does thriving look like for me? Not compared to others, but for me. Then you can create a short narrative. So here is an example. I am someone who listens deeply to my body, adapts with resilience, and creates meaningful life even with challenges. Repeat it. Refine it, return to it often. Your brain needs repetition to believe something new. So number 2, write a new version of your story. And then number 3, align small actions with your new story. So now we're backing it up with behavior. A new story only sticks when your life begins to reflect it. Ask yourself daily, if I believed this new story, what is one small action I would take today? I talked about remission, and so one small action would be to make sure I'm eating foods that support staying in remission and avoids flares. So let me repeat those steps to you. Step 1 was identify and interrupt the old narrative. Step 2, write a new version of your story. And step 3, align small actions with the new story. This could look like resting without guilt, nourishing your body intentionally. These are some of the actions. Setting a boundary, celebrating a small win, moving your body in a way that feels safe. Thriving isn't built in big leaps, but in consistent, aligned choices. Interesting, because I went to the gym a couple days after an infusion and I was not as strong as I am usually. And I had to really talk to myself and say, you know what, they're doing 3 repetitions. I don't need to do all 3. I can rest after 2. It sounds kind of dumb and simple, but it was a big deal for me. Let's get some biblical backup here. Use positive affirmations that replace bad memories with supportive ones. This helps build new memories over those old ones. We see this in Ephesians 4:29 and Proverbs 18:20. When we're using positive affirmations, we are also rewriting our story and replacing those negative memories. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit." Like that, I love that Bible verse, but it hits you in the gut, because if you're talking death, we're going to eat that fruit. Dr. Caroline Leaf, I love her. She's a neuroscientist who's brilliant, states that your emotions must be involved in the new building process. Even with evidence to the contrary, you will not believe something unless you feel it. We've seen this so many times. Words have to be backed up with honesty and integrity to be congruent. And congruent thinking changes the brain. Oh my gosh, there's so much there, you guys. Okay, I'm moving on. So there is a psychological principle that suggests that what you consistently focus on becomes what your brain filters for. So your brain is looking for that now. If your narrative is everything is hard, your brain scans for evidence of a struggle. If your narrative is there are still wins, your brain begins to notice those. This means your narrative influences what stands out in your reality. That is super powerful. Okay, so here's a reflection. What can you focus on that will begin to change your story? And you guys, that could be someone who is amazing, who motivates you. I have people in my family, people in my circle that deal with very serious chronic illnesses, and they are amazing. And another reflection, what are you taking away from this episode? What I hope you take away is that you have the power. You can have the power. You're talking to yourself all the time anyways, and you're talking to others. What is your story? What is the narrative you're telling them about your current situation? In closing, ask yourself, what story am I living today? And consider you are allowed to rewrite it, not overnight, not perfectly, but intentionally. You're not just a diagnosis. You're not just symptoms. You are a whole person, still growing, still adapting, and still becoming. And your story, still being written. You have the power. Join me in a closing prayer. Jesus, thank you for the awareness. Help us to use words that will help us heal, grow, and change. In Jesus' name. So thank you for being here today. If this episode resonated with you, take a moment to reflect or share it with someone who might need it. I'd be honored if you'd hit the like or subscribe button. Until then, keep redefining what is possible.